I have picked up a little different topic this time, corporate couching. I don't know if you all are wondering why this topic, out of all the other psychological issues that we are going through, why I had to pick up this.
That was a spelling mistake. I thought corporate coaching or something.
Actually, even they asked me, ma'am, are you sure it's couching? I mean, because they thought it's coaching, and coaching is something that's often happening at corporate levels, wherein they are taught soft skills and they have those trainers with them. But this is couching. I'll make it very clear, because this is referring to the relationships, the unethical relationships that's going on in the corporate environment. So why I came up with this was because I am encountering a lot of people coming to me for help because they cannot manage the stress levels after they get into such things. So it is actually affecting the mental health of these corporate employees. Which is why I thought I'll pick up this topic for now. So let's have a look at what corporate couching can lead to. So this office romance or workplace romance, which is very common, and it exists when two more members of the same organization develop a mutual attraction for each other. So generally that happens in a lot of ways. Let's see how that happens. Very commonly due to friendship. Once you start interacting with somebody on day-to-day basis for some work purposes, and you develop being good friends with that person, start knowing that person a bit too well, and you start getting attracted to that person. Maybe if not the personality, then maybe the qualities of that person starts attracting you. Sometimes it starts with harassments, and then the weaker person, the subordinate or the weaker person, is left with rather no choice, or rather feels that it is no harm getting into rather taking up any conflicts or taking up any panga with the superior or co-worker who is more stronger, more influential. Might as well, it is nothing wrong to have a cozy relationship. It is anyways not going to harm. So it starts with a casual approach wherein it can lead to a serious one. Superior power and subordinate vulnerability. Of course, I actually spoke about this point in the previous one, but usually that is a very common thing. Power is something everybody wants to use. It's that one thing which gives a kick to the people that, what will I do? I mean, people want to exploit that power. And with that power, of course, that is one basic need. Because and working hours are so much, they want to have some pleasure in their working hours, and it's their power which they can actually use. Sometimes it is a mutual consensual relationship wherein no strings are attached. Both the people want to get into a relationship because of work stress, because of mutual family issues. Both of them are having some issues at family level, at their home level, wherein they feel that we both sail in the same boat, and we might as well can have some good time together. Sometimes it is sheer thrill. It is just to get entertained at workplace, because the work is becoming monotonous, it is getting over you, it is getting too stressful. So that stress it is used as a stress relief measure, just to keep you hooked on, keep you going, motivated to go to work. All those things which I said applies to even women bosses. So not only that if men boss can only exploit the female, even a female boss can exploit men equally bad. So it's also very common nowadays to see relationships existing between some same genders. What happens, what I've seen is, in a country like ours, and even a country like US took a long time to accept same gender marriages and things like that. So naturally, with a country like ours, it's still going to take a long time to accept things like that. But people who have these tendencies and who cannot really open up in their families, at their home front, that they do have bisexual or homosexual tendencies, and they do bang into somebody at their workplace, they don't think it's a wrong idea to get into one, because especially people with same genders getting closer is generally which is not offended by other people. It's not taken as a crime. because they seem to be like best friends when they hang around. So it's not taken as a relationship at a sexual level. But those things can, people also get into these things as well, because that workplace is being taken advantage of. So why is this so-called office romance so common or so prevalent? Increase in the number of women in the workplace compared to from last 20 years or so, more and more women are going out and have started working, even at the corporate level. Initially, it was said that women would generally be seen only doing jobs like being a teacher or a lecturer. Those were common jobs that you could find females working into. Now, more and more females are into complete corporate jobs. All those which demand 9 to 10 hours of working, they are also keen enough on getting into these kind of jobs. So when more women come into these kind of workplaces, there are more interactions happening between men and women, wherein these kind of things can take place commonly. Employees wait longer to get married. Again, 30-40 years back, maybe 20-25 years back, a general culture which prevailed in the country or in the society was that moment the man starts earning, he's got a good job, he's got married, he has to get married. So the family, if he doesn't want to get married to somebody, it is the family which looks out for some nice bride or a groom, and the girl and the boy gets married. Nowadays, even after getting into a permanent good job, people want to wait longer. They are in no hurry to get married, even when they are post 25. So that one thing, and that's the age wherein their biological needs are at peak. Your physical needs are at peak, and if at that peak age people have not got married, they are naturally going to get attracted to the females in and around the workplace area. Employees work long hours. Like initially, when the competition was a little lesser, when there were no perks involved, when there was no targets involved in the work, and work would take place smoothly within the confined hours, then more or less everybody used to leave office during those hours. Now, because of these highly competitive era, all the private company employees, all the corporate employees more or less extend their working hours more than what is actually officially mentioned. So when you have to work more than your subscribed hours, it takes a toll on you. And to get over that toll, to feel refreshed, to feel good feel motivated, there has to be something that should keep you stuck to that place, something that should keep you motivated to be at that place. And that maybe is that romance that helps them to be in. Workplace cultures and casual attitudes. Nowadays, even the culture at the workplace is changed. Initially, there were only few, men would be together in their company, women would be together in their company. Now, everybody together move about as a group. So now in corporates, in these workplaces, you don't find men and women being segregated. They are more or less roaming about. They are more or less engaged in the conversations as a group. So more and more interaction as a group happens. There is more likelihood that they get involved into one another. Generation X and Generation Y. Generation X is people who are born between 1960 to 1980s or so, and beyond which is Generation Y till 2000. So now when these two generations came together, there was a vast difference in their attitude and way of thinking, and maybe there was this new approach that was brought in by this Generation Y, which probably took that boredom away from Generation X, and that is how I think more and more relationships got into place. Job tenures are shorter. Like you must have seen, maybe when you all were working, I think at the most 2 organizations, 1 or 2 or 3 organizations maximum that you all must have served for. More or less the population was into that culture, into that kind of a system. Now every 3, 4, 5, maximum 6, 7 years, they have to hop to another job because they are getting more hikes, more better payments. They are getting those kind of appreciated packages with which they want to change. So the workplace is also not going to be permanent, which they have in their mind somewhere, that I'm not going to be sticking around. When you know that you have to be sticking around to this place for like next 20 years, or maybe you'll be retiring from this place, people generally have this thing at the back of their mind, the image that you will create in that workplace. What are going to people think about you when you leave this job, when you retire, so that kind of a respect that people will hold on for you when you go out of this place is something people were serious about then. Now, because they know that, who knows, hum kahan se retire honge. So, might as well make the best out of whatever place we are currently working in. So, after all that, the consequences are just lying ahead. So, what are the consequences of having this merry time at office? What goes wrong? If a relationship is between superior and subordinate, which is very common, sexual harassment complaints, meaning as far as a relationship is fine, it's fine. Sometimes the moment the subordinate is not very happy with the time given, or with the kind of relationship going through some problems, there is a complaint against the superior that, I have been sexually harassed. Even if it was consensual before that, it comes as a complaint later. Claims of favoritism. And people in the office who know about it, or rather even if they don't know about it, they gather this, there is something happening between the subordinate and the superior, and they feel that why is it that only this particular subordinate is favored compared to other people. Retaliation claims. Sometimes there might be either of the parties in the relationship who might retaliate if they are not getting their due time and attention of the one in the relationship, because a tendency once formed that you get into a relationship, that person might get attracted to somebody else very soon, and then the conflict starts, especially if he or she is married. Then they have to give that much of time to their family as well, and it is then when the retaliation comes from the other partner that you are not giving me the due time with which the relationship has all started. Conflict of interest. After the physical attraction and the physical union and the physical makeout is done with, and then the boredom comes into the relationship, it is when the conflict of interest is changed. Both the people have got into the relationship with some selfish motive. So once the motive is probably achieved, then the interest levels are decreased or not there anymore. So then the relationship again goes through a bad phase. Confidentiality breaches. Now, if a superior is into a relationship with any subordinate, there are big chances that the confidential matters which the superior has in his hands might be leaked out during the pillow talk. So again, it is not a very healthy thing for the corporate. Potential for violence. And when for anybody, when they get into this job, with a high paying job like corporate, when you break the rules of corporate by being into any such relationships, and when the relationship becomes a reason for the employee to quit the job, or for the employee for the degradation or demotion in the job, then that anger, that frustration can lead to the violent behavior in the employee as well. Gossips, very common. So even if a subordinate or employee is seen getting a little closer to the boss, to the superior, then the gossip in the environment is immediate to begin, and this gossip can actually lead to the crashing of an image. What can happen is, even if a subordinate, say a lady subordinate or any subordinate, is hiked or given promotion, even if the person is given promotion on the basis of his qualification, his work, his efforts, after once he or she gets into such relationship, the tag that he gets along is that he is got promoted only because he was in relationship or she was in relationship with the boss, not because of any other credentials, not because of any other added element that he had in him, that added positive thing which could actually take him to that next level is never considered. So that big patch on that image is built up. Spouses, which they come to know that if their husbands or wives are in relationships, they get into it's a very bad environment to be created in the organization when somebody faces that crisis at the family level, that their spouses are into relationship with somebody at the office. It is seldom watched upon as to what happens to his or her job. They could barge into the office, they can get hold of the concerned partner, and the entire scene can be created out of that. If the relationship is among the co-workers, now display is what happens when two people are in relationship. It's very difficult for people to actually hide that. It comes out in one way or the other. It has to be revealed in one way or the other. So what happens, even in spite of being in total control of self, the people in relationship often end up displaying that they have affection for each other, which leads to a lot of gossips and a lot of misinterpretation of things that are between them. Then spending inordinate amounts of time together during work hours. What happens again is, because you're so much wanting to spend that me time, that we time, rather not me time, that we time together, me and you together, that the time that is supposed to be dedicated to the office work is dedicated to each other. So this is where is the loss of the office. Co-workers, the other co-workers may feel uncomfortable when two people exchange these kind of signs and signals and affectionate notes among each other, maybe either through mails or either through physical gestures or signs and signals. The other people sitting around might start feeling uncomfortable with the whole scenario. It can create a hostile work environment also. After all this, if these people are not being told upon or no action is being taken upon, the other people who are working properly, sincerely towards the organization, might start feeling crazily irritated up with those lovebirds, that these people are getting away with having a nice merry time with each other, and we here like fools are working for the organization. So that can lead to that incompatible relationship between other employees as well, other co-workers as well. So in the end, after all that, what should be adopted? Naturally, the don't thing is naturally should be heavier, but people who want to do it, they say do it. I mean, they feel that's more heavier. So you always tend to feel that what you justify your needs, because that everybody is getting, there is a psychological disorder with which people get away with doing wrong things. What they feel is, if everybody is doing it commonly, why should I be spared of? Now, we used to initially think that kind of a tendency only teenagers have, while they are into school and colleges, and when they get into these relationships, they feel, my friend is also having a boyfriend, this friend also has a girlfriend, why can't I have one? He also drinking, she's also into drugs, they are also into smoking, why can't I do? So then they feel it's justified, it's fine to do wrong thing because everybody else is doing it. So in an environment like that, when everybody more or less is into some or the other relationship, they feel it's okay. They justify being into such relationships, these unethical relationships. So rather, ideally, we are not supposed to, or nobody is supposed to, mix business with pleasure. In life, in work, even otherwise, you come across a lot of people wherein they seem interesting, they seem to take you to another level. Even professionally, they can actually help you to take you to another level. But if a price to be paid for that is that you're supposed to get into a relationship with that, or get into any unethical means of putting yourself at that promoted level, I think that's mixing something, that is getting something out of having that selfish motive, doing something for the selfish motive, getting into an unethical practice. Sometimes it's a pleasure also. You just, as I said, it's because as a human being is very nice, you feel attracted towards somebody, and you generally start off with a casual friendship, but you never know when it can actually end up ruining your profession, your business. So it's a very thin line which need not be crossed. So in case, if you bang into, there are going to be many people banging into you at your workplace, and out of which many people might be having that charisma to attract us, to get us completely zapped by their personalities, by their qualities. But what do we do in certain things like that? It's very important to not tell those things, you know, to keep it to yourself, because reflecting the feelings for somebody might also put you into trouble. So just liking somebody is no harm, but it is not always advisable to tell that person that, you know, he or she is being admired and liked by them. So it is better to gain that mental strength to have a stable thought process. Liking someone, getting attracted to someone is no crime. It's normal, it's natural. It is such a human tendency. It's a very common human tendency to keep liking people. But what you do after that is something that you need to be in control of. Generally, why that happens with so many people? Because nowadays when people study, get into jobs, when they get into the corporates, the thing that they have on their minds is, I want to get into this place, or I want to get into this profession because it's high paying. Not all the time you might be in love with your profession. Not all the time you might be in love with what you have studied. So when that is the attitude which has actually pushed you into the profession, it's like you don't love your work. So that's one primary thing. Second and the most important thing which I find with most of these people is somewhere you don't love yourself. There is this lack of respect that you have for yourself. In that case, it's very common and it's very easy for individuals, when they get little bit of respect and little bit of attention from other people, they get carried away. So these are two things which a person essentially has to understand, that if I'm working here, if I've taken up this job, if I've taken up this work at this organization, I have to be in love with it. A person has to create that love, create that engagement with that organization, with his duty, with his job profile, with his work. Until then, he is going to start looking for distractions here and there. Second and most important, as I said, you need to have that love for yourself. Don't feel that vacuum within, you know, that nobody loves me, nobody cares for me, oh, I had to get married to somebody I didn't really love. No, those kind of feelings actually reflect that you don't love yourself. That is the reason you're looking at people to love you. That's something that needs to be pondered upon, to be thought upon. Thank you so much.